Welcome to an alternate world where the smartphone was invented in the 1960s, where millions of people were able to tune into the first-person live stream of the moon landing. Woodstock was just a giant opportunity for narcissistic selfies. Andy Warhol was the world's first Instagram celebrity. And the counterculture movement grew exponentially through social media. How would smartphones in the 1960s have changed the course of history? And if the smartphone had been invented so much earlier, what would it look like by now? And why would the first generation to grow old with smartphones be so different from ours? A lot of our most significant historical shifts and events were affected by the technologies that were available to us at the time. With that in mind, we thought it would be interesting to see how our world would change if we dropped smartphones into the iconic decade that was the 1960s. Oh, and just for argument's sake, we're talking about smartphones as we know them today, complete with internet access, social media, mobile apps, cameras, live streaming, all of it. Let's not get bogged down with all the technical details. When we talk about the 1960s, it's hard not to mention the Vietnam War, since the conflict and its opposition pretty well defined the decade. Vietnam was known as the first television war because of the significant role televised news reports played in turning public opinion against the war. But even with all the images and videos coming back to the USA, it still took years for the real horrors of war to be exposed. Journalists were pressured to get quick shots of the latest firefights by riding helicopters in and out of the battlefield the same day. Then, the footage was shipped back to the editors and packaged up before it was shown on American television sets. If smartphones had been available at the time, reporters would have been able to immediately broadcast their images and videos directly from the war zone. This would have allowed them to stay on the battlefield longer, capture more comprehensive stories, and keep the world up to date faster. There would also be a tremendous opportunity for the citizens of Vietnam to share their accounts of the events. Not only would smartphones have caused a faster shift in public opinion, they would also have allowed for better organized protests back at home. Instead of organizing through word of mouth or flyers, protesters could have spread the word through giant online communities, resulting in a wider reach and quicker mobilization. And speaking of giant communities, imagine the excitement that would have built up online in the lead-up to one of the biggest events of the decade. Woodstock. Woodstock '69 has built up a legacy over the ages of being the ideal music festival. 3 days of peace, love, and good times. But in reality, it was a lot more complicated than that. The organizers weren't ready for so many people. They ran out of food, didn't have enough toilets, trash piled up everywhere, and some concertgoers even died. If every one of the million attendees had a smartphone with them, there could have been endless online posts complaining about these conditions. The festival might have gotten a bad reputation quickly. Some of the musical acts might have gotten wind of the whole situation and decided not to show up at all. Instead of becoming one of the defining moments of a generation, it could have just been remembered as an epic failure. Okay, so we've looked at how smartphones in the 1960s could have changed our past. So now, let's look at how they could have changed our present. If the smartphone had been invented back in the 60s, it would have had so much more time to evolve by now. The chances are that smartphone technology would be far more advanced than anything we have in our pockets today. Experts say that the next forms of smartphone technology will focus on the non-physical side of things. We're talking phones that are viewed through high-tech contact lenses, controlled by voice command, charged with a wireless system similar to Wi-Fi, and powered by artificial intelligence. They would break down the barriers between our physical and digital lives, making our whole world one big augmented reality. The smartphone itself would be superior to what it is today, but what about the people operating the smartphones? If the smartphone had been around since the 1960s, we'd be looking at an entire generation of senior citizens who had never known a world without it. We already know what effects smartphones are having on users in their 20s. Less social interaction, shorter attention spans, higher rates of depression, and slower rates of maturation. But what will it be like for generations who have grown old with smartphones? Maybe people will just choose to stay home all the time and live in the comfort of a digital simulation. Imagine a world where the Roaring '20s were not just an era of jazz and flappers, but also of hashtags and influencers. A world where the internet dawned not in the late 20th century, but in the time of speakeasies and silent films. This is your alternate timeline, the internet being invented in the 1920s. As you step into this world, the first thing you notice is the sound of typewriters intermingled with the clicking of keyboards. The Great War has ended, and the world is looking forward to a peaceful and prosperous future. In this reality, a genius of the age invents a rudimentary form of the internet, a network connecting libraries, universities, and government offices across the globe. The 1920s are now alive with online forums instead of smoky jazz clubs. The Harlem Renaissance takes on a new form, with poets and artists sharing their work not just in packed venues, but across the world via web pages. Social media, in its embryonic form, is a bulletin board system where users post messages and news, sharing the latest on politics, prohibition, and the booming stock market. As we move into the 1930s, the Great Depression hits. But in this world, crowdfunding platforms emerge, allowing communities to support each other financially. World War II is a different beast with the internet. Information flows rapidly, engaging more countries against Nazism, and the war effort is bolstered by real-time communication. Resistance movements in occupied Europe coordinate through encrypted messages.
We're going to break an unbreakable Nazi code and win the war.
And the war ends with a digital broadcast of peace. The post-war world sees the birth of the United Nations online forums, where global diplomacy happens in real time. The civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s gains momentum not only through marches and speeches, but through viral videos and online petitions. Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech is not just heard on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, but is watched live by millions around the world. The 1970s bring a digital revolution alongside the sexual revolution. The feminist movement finds new platforms to spread its message, leading to earlier and more widespread changes in gender equality. The Vietnam War is the first to be live-streamed, with protests organized not just on college campuses, but across web forums, changing public opinion faster and more decisively. As you enter the 1980s, the Cold War plays out not just in the physical world, but in cyberspace. The fall of the Berlin Wall is a global online event, with East and West Germans reuniting in chat rooms before they do at Checkpoint Charlie. The 1990s are a decade of digital boom. The dot-com bubble grows larger and faster, with companies like Amazon and Google starting not in garages, but in the early online marketplaces of the 1920s. The Y2K scare at the turn of the millennium is a non-event, as decades of digital infrastructure make the transition smooth. The world of today, in this alternate timeline, is unrecognizable. Society is more connected than ever.
A place called the Oasis.
With a century of internet history shaping every aspect of life. Education is global and free, with virtual classrooms accessible to all. The Arab Spring, the Occupy movements, and other social revolutions of the early 21st century are more coordinated, more widespread, and more effective. But it's not a perfect world. The issues we grapple with today, privacy, misinformation, cyber warfare, have been around for decades, evolving with the technology. The digital divide is a chasm that opened in the 1930s, and the fight for digital rights is as old as civil rights. As we log off from this journey through an internet-age 20th century, we're left to wonder, would society be more advanced? Perhaps.
Thank you.
But it's clear that the internet, no matter when it arrives, is a tool, a reflection of the society that wields it. It can spread hate as easily as it can spread love, ignorance,
You are fake news.
as swiftly as knowledge. Now let's see what another alternate timeline is like. What would happen if the light bulb was invented during the Roman Empire? Strap in and get ready for your next time mission. Imagine stepping into a world where the grandeur of Rome is illuminated not by the flickering of torches, but by the steady glow of electric light. Today, we're embarking on a journey through time to bestow upon the Roman Empire one of the greatest inventions of the modern era, the light bulb. How would this single piece of technology have reshaped the ancient world, and what cascading effects would it have on the tapestry of history? This is your alternate time mission. The light bulb was invented during the Roman empires. As you wander the cobbled streets of Rome, the first thing you notice is the absence of soot and smoke. The air is clearer, the night less daunting. The Roman Forum, once shrouded in darkness, come nightfall, now stands proudly under the hum of electric light. The implications are immediate and profound. The Roman lifestyle, once dictated by the rise and fall of the sun, is now liberated from natural light cycles. Markets stay open longer, productivity in workshops skyrockets, and Roman nightlife becomes even more vibrant. The light bulb does more than just extend the day. It revolutionizes Roman society. Education, once a privilege of the daylight hours, now extends into the night, creating a surge in literacy and learning. The Library of Alexandria could operate around the clock, potentially preserving knowledge that was lost to history in our timeline. And maybe it wouldn't have burned to the ground, since no candles would ever have to come near the precious parchments gathered there. In the realm of security, the Roman military benefits immensely. Fortifications and barracks are well lit, reducing the risk of nighttime incursions by enemies. The legions march and build under the constant glow of light, extending the reach of Rome's power and influence. Naval fleets navigate the seas after dusk with greater safety, bolstering trade and exploration. But the introduction of the light bulb would require more than just the bulb itself. It necessitates the birth of an entire electrical infrastructure. Aqueducts are now accompanied by power lines, and the Roman engineering prowess takes a new direction. The empire, already a master of roads and concrete, now delves into the mastery of electricity. Imagine the Colosseum, not just a marvel of architecture, but a spectacle of light. Night games become the norm, with gladiatorial contests and grand events drawing crowds from across the empire, bolstering the economy and the cult of the emperors. As for the wars and colonies, the Roman military campaigns are now waged with a tactical advantage never before seen. The legions, equipped with portable light sources, change the face of warfare. The conquests and expeditions into the Germanic forests or the deserts of Arabia happen with fewer losses, and the borders of the empire expand even further. Fast forward to the present day in this alternate timeline, and the world is unrecognizable. The uninterrupted lineage of Roman technological advancement means that by the time the Middle Ages should have rolled around, humanity is already experimenting with technologies that in our timeline wouldn't emerge until the Renaissance or even later. The global map is redrawn as Roman colonies in the Americas and beyond thrive under the eternal light of Rome. The spread of technology accelerates the pace of discovery, and by the time our 21st century arrives, we're looking at a civilization that may have already ventured to the stars, their ships embarking from launch pads built on the foundations of ancient Roman forts. Yet, this technological utopia may come at a cost. The environmental impact of an industrialized Roman Empire could mean that by our times, the planet is grappling with ecological crises centuries ahead of schedule. And the social structures of Rome, with its slavery and gladiatorial games, might persist in more modern forms, raising questions about the progress of human rights. In the end, the light bulb, a symbol of enlightenment and progress, could have been both a blessing and a curse for the Roman Empire. It could have extended its lifespan, altered its culture, and reshaped the world in its image. But it also could have cast long shadows over the future, proving that even the brightest lights can cast the darkest shadows. Now it's time to explore another alternate timeline. The Middle Ages. A time when you were more likely to die on the toilet than take a bath. And now, you're going there with an educational mission. It's up to you now. Let's show the Middle Ages how it's done. But would you be tried as a witch? Could you cure all diseases? Or would you accidentally create a new pandemic? This is your time mission. Bring technology to the Middle Ages. It's easy to write off the Middle Ages as a backward time for hygiene and technology. While you might think the church and science were at odds with each other, nothing could be further from the truth. Some religious leaders thought scientific advancements celebrated humanity's divine creator. So, if you time traveled back into the European Middle Ages with your cell phone, the technology within it might be embraced by this developing society. But how would you recharge it? Excuse me, anyone here got a charger? Historians refer to the years between 500 and 1500 CE as the Middle Ages. But if you traveled back to this time to Europe, your presence and technology could fast forward the era into a different form of enlightenment. So don't worry, those torches aren't for you. I don't think. And if you want to make this world a better place, you could start in the bathroom. In this time, the upper class built toilets called guardrobes. These devices dropped everything out the side of the castles and into a moat below. Oh geez, watch your step. While China was making advancements in toilet paper, European society was waist-deep in, well, waste. This unhealthy environment created bacteria that spread diseases like cholera, which could kill you within hours. Introducing toilet paper and a sewer system made of bricks would prevent many early deaths. But what about other diseases? Well, better hygiene technology wouldn't cure everything. Smallpox was a deadly disease that killed nearly 33% of those infected. And we didn't invent a vaccine for it until 1796. Bringing that vaccine back to the Middle Ages may not work as well as you expect, though, because you would run out of it and you wouldn't have a way to make more. But Dr. Edward Jenner, inventor of the smallpox vaccine, found that milkmaids infected by cowpox became immune to this disease. So, if you brought back cowpox and used it to infect people, you could create an early immunity to one of the world's deadliest viruses. While a cowpox pandemic could take many lives, it would kill much fewer people than smallpox. And maybe you should wear a mask for the first few weeks so you don't spread any viruses from the future. Okay, now that you've healed Europe of a life-threatening disease, it's time to connect it. While the discovery of electricity dates back to the ancient Greeks, this concept is still just an abstract thought in the Middle Ages. Although you could show the Europeans how to use the materials they have to create the world's first electrical grid, you could teach people to take copper, smelt it down, and meticulously pound it by hand into wire. Then, using magnets, you could create an electrical charge and direct it wherever you need it. You would still have to teach people how to build light bulbs, solar panels, and engines, but you've given them the basis of a new age of connectivity.
Can you hear me?
The printing press could become electrified hundreds of years earlier, and images and text could be transmitted worldwide. Knowledge wouldn't be restricted only to those who can afford it. But even with an electrical grid, could you use your cell phone? During the Middle Ages, people used a popular device called an astrolabe that could tell the time, give your location, and even predict your horoscope. Introducing handheld mobile devices would make this hanging status symbol obsolete. But would this advancement just turn into another boredom killer? What would you bring back to the Middle Ages? Let us know in the comments. With the electrical systems in place, you can finally recharge your phone, not to mention your time machine. The changes you made would speed up humanity's development. And the future you grew up in may not even happen. So what if you took this time machine and went 1 billion years into the future? Well, charge up that battery for the flux capacitor. Strap in for your next time mission.